Hi, my name is Amber Gagliardi, and I'm going to lead you through the Grow Your Own Pizza Garden. This is a take and make program brought to you by the Middle Country Public Library. I hope you had a chance to pick up your kit. So let me go through it and talk about what came in your kit, what you'll need, and some ideas on how to start this pizza garden. In your kit, you received German pink tomato seeds, miniature red bell pepper seeds, glow basil seeds, Genovese basil seeds. You got 10 peat pellets, and you got 5 wooden garden stakes. You're going to need water, a tray or dish to put your peat pellets in to get your plant started. This is certainly something you could upcycle. You could use leftover takeout dishes or any sort of dish or tray that you have laying around. I used a old craft tray that worked perfectly because I was able to fit about 25 peat pellets in it. And you're going to want some sort of light source. So you could purchase a grow light. You could get these at any garden center or a store like Home Depot or Lowe's. Last year, I decided to get an LED one just to be more efficient with energy, and I thought it would be a great upgrade to my growing season. Or you could find a very sunny, warm spot indoors. Now you will need this spot to get lots of light to start things like tomatoes and peppers for your pizza garden. Let's talk now about how to use the peat pellets that came in your kit. I love using these peat pellets. They're perfect to start seeds, they're nice and clean, and you can certainly do this indoors and not make a huge mess. What you're going to want to do is place your peat pellets in a container, tray, or jar and add some warm water. On the packaging, it's suggested you add about a quarter of a cup. I tend to eye it out and just watch the peat pellet expand and add water until it's full size. This takes about 20 minutes for the peat pellets to fully expand. Just add more water when needed. You'll see one side has a hole at the top. That's the side that you're going to want to start adding the water and have that up so your seedling can come through. If there's not an opening, just slightly tear the top or push the net into the side if it's not wide enough. You're going to want to place 1 to 3 seeds in each peat pellet. Now the tiny little basil herb seeds are very small. Just do the best you can. Things like the tomatoes and the peppers, they're much easier to just put one seed in. You could put 1 or 2. Now you will have to weed these out if you do put 2 because only 1 will be able to fit in the peat pellet. And you certainly want to give your tomatoes and peppers plenty of room. Our seeds have a high germination rate, so I would suggest just putting 1 and giving it a chance. Once you're done with this, just cover your seeds with some of the pea pellet soil and wait for your seeds to pop up. They don't need light until you start to see them, so you can put them out of direct sun for now. But you do want a nice warm area as that will ignite the germination process. Once they pop up, you're going to need some light source. So again, you can put this in a nice sunny spot or put it under your grow light. You'll also want to put some sort of dome over it. This will act like a greenhouse. So you can do some plastic wrap or a plastic bag or anything that you have. This will help you retain some of the moisture and help your seeds flourish. You do need to water your peat pellets often, and you'll be able to tell right away if they're dry. I use this nice spray bottle for this. If you do tend to put more than 1 seed in it, you'll want to thin this out. Again, these are very small peat pellets, and your plants will thrive having enough space. If they're overcrowded, you're just going to stunt their growth. Let's talk about each of these seeds, and then I'll give you some tips for transplanting your plants outdoors. So in your kit, you got the German pink tomato seeds. These are new to the seed library, and we're very excited to have them in our seed library this year. So these German pink tomatoes are going to get fairly large. It's estimated they'll be about 1 to 2 pounds of fresh fruit. These tomatoes are excellent for canning, freezing, and slicing. I just can't wait to try them this summer. You're going to want to start these indoors right about this time, 6 weeks before the last frost. I started mine last weekend. They're already starting to germinate. Just about May or June, you're going to want to put these outside, and you're going to make sure that you have support for them, like a cage, a stake, or a trellis. I'm going to talk a little bit about this in a little bit later. You also got the miniature red bell pepper seeds. These are a miniature bell pepper that get about 2 inches long. They have excellent flavor, and I really enjoyed growing these for the past 2 years. You can add them to dishes like fajitas or even like a miniature stuffed pepper that's great for an appetizer. These also should be started indoors. It's getting slightly late to start these, but if you start them now, you'll still have plenty of time in the growing season to get peppers at the end of summer. You're going to then want to put them outside after the danger of frost has passed. So I aim to do this the second week in June. They do germinate in about 14 days, so I expect mine to pop up next week. They are going to need some room. They don't need as much room as your tomatoes, which need about at least 1 to 2 feet apart, but the peppers are going to need about 1 foot apart. Again, you never want to overcrowd. I've made this mistake many times. The peppers are going to need full sun, as is your tomatoes and your basils. Your pizza garden is just going to require a full sunny spot in your yard. Next, let's talk about the globe basil. The globe basil is one of my favorites. It has a peppery taste compared to the Genovese. This is really great just to put around your garden as a border, but is also certainly edible for things like adding to pizzas and sauces. You're going to want to make sure you have about 4 to 6 inches apart. So you're not going to need as much room for these as compared to your tomatoes and your peppers. You can direct sow these outside, or you can start them indoors. I did start a few indoors, and I'll also start some outside as well. They do vary in the amount of time for germination. So Seed Saver says they do 5 to 30 days, and this is probably going to be contributed to the temperature of your soil. So if it's nice and warm out, it's definitely going to germinate a little bit quicker. So if you start these indoors, it's going to be about a week until they pop up, in my experience. Basil does like it nice and warm and sunny, so you're going to want to make sure you start them after when the temperature is warm, about 65 degrees. One of our most popular basils in our seed library is the Genovese basil. They have the big, large leaves, and they're very popular for things like mozzarella and tomato dishes. So this is always a favorite. It does have a sweet flavor to this, and certainly can be chopped up and frozen in olive oil to be used all year round. You can directly sow these outside or start them indoors, so very similar to the globe basil. They do need about 4 to 6 inches apart and full sun. Once it gets warm out, like I said before, I usually aim for the second week in June. You're going to want to put all your transplants outside. You can start thinking about now, where is the best spot for this? You're going to want a sunny spot with well-drained soil. If it's your first year, you're going to want to take a look and check out and decide where to put this. Gardens are a lot of fun, but they too take some pre-planning. You're going to want to think about creating some sort of edging for your garden. There's lots of choices at the garden center, so you could take a walk around and get some ideas, or you could order something online. If you want to create a low budget garden, you can certainly reuse things in your yard like wood and sticks and things like that. So get creative and come check out some gardening books to get some ideas. You're also going to want to consider starting a compost pile or think about where you're going to obtain some compost. It's vital to any garden success to have great soil, as that provides the nutrients you need. You're also going to want to think about a watering schedule. The best thing I did a couple years ago was set up soaker hoses on a timer. Often I'll go away in June and August when it's hot and we get very little rain. This has been essential to my success. I can just know that this is going to be, all my plants are going to be watered and I don't have to worry about it. If you're fortunate enough to have an irrigation system, you can certainly make sure your timer is set to the perfect amount of water for all your plants. There's other ways to think about this. You could talk to a neighbor and think, if you're going away, and ask them to water your plants, and just think about when you can water everything every day. The best time to water is in the morning when you don't get the direct sunlight to make all your leaves crusty. You're also going to want to remove all the weeds and add in plenty organic matter to your garden. I talked about this before, but your tomatoes are going to need support. The tomatoes, and especially the German pink ones, get very large. They're going to need a trellis or some sort of stake to support them throughout the growing season. I've made this mistake before and not provide any support, and your tomatoes the stems just simply break. They really do need this support, but it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. You can certainly upcycle sticks and get some string and just tie them up as they grow. I want to take now at the seed viability chart. So you may have not known this, but seeds do last quite a bit of time. If you don't want to plant them all this year, they can be stored for next year. Each of our seed packets in our seed library come with 8 to 10 seeds in each of the packages. That would take up quite a bit of room. I mentioned before that you're going to want 1 to 2 feet between your tomato plants and at least a feet between your pepper plants. If you don't have a large garden, this could take up a lot of space. So just keep in mind that you can keep the seeds for next year or give them to a neighbor, but you certainly don't have to throw them away. If you love to craft and add color to your garden, we did provide you with these DIY garden stakes. You can use paint, permanent markers, or stickers to decorate and personalize the wooden stakes. You can really just make them your own. I had a lot of fun doing this, and it adds a lot of color to your garden. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and you have a great growing season. Just remember, we have plenty of seeds at the seed library. You started off with the tomatoes, the basil, and the peppers, but you can certainly add other things as well. Come visit us anytime the library is open and check out additional seeds for your garden. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My name is Amber Gagliardi, and you can find me on the reference desk or email me at gagliardiamber@mcpllibrary.org. Happy growing season!